The alarms weren't supposed to be that loud. Jace had rewired them 2 cycles ago to sound more like a polite knock than a screeching banshee. Yet here they were again, full banshee mode. He slammed a gloved hand against the overhead panel and growled, "I swear, if that's another solar eel in the coolant line, I'm opening the hatch and letting fate decide." Sal's voice responded with its usual brand of synthetic smugness. "Proximity alert. Unknown energy signature detected. Likely cause, something far more interesting than an eel, possibly more fatal too." Jace cursed under his breath and yanked the pilot seat forward, brushing crumbs off the console. "That's not specific. What quadrant?" "Forward starboard, moon of Viral 6. I recommend ignoring it entirely and continuing to the next supply stop." He checked the scanners, narrowed his eyes, then leaned back with a sigh. "Of course it's a dead moon. Of course the energy reading looks like someone crossed a distress beacon with a solar flare. And of course I'm too stupid to ignore it. I logged that self-awareness moment for future reference," Sal replied. "Also, if you die, I'm transferring myself to a vending machine. Wouldn't be your first downgrade." The Wayfarer groaned as it adjusted course. The engine sputtered, then caught rhythm like a drunk finding their footing. The ship broke through the wispy remains of Viral 6 atmosphere and descended toward the scarred surface. A crater loomed ahead, glowing faintly with pulses of unnatural blue light. Jace lowered the ship gently, dust and static dancing against the viewport. He geared up, double-checked his sidearm, and opened the hatch. The air was thin, the silence broken only by the crunch of his boots and the faint hum of the ship's still-running engines. At the crater's center, tangled in the crackling energy of some kind of trap, was a figure, humanoid, female, motionless. Jace took 2 steps forward and muttered, "Okay, brain, feel free to chime in any time now with a 'don't touch that.'" No such warning came. He knelt cautiously, eyeing the strange metal structure that wrapped around her like a spiderweb. It pulsed when he touched it, warm and wrong. The trap didn't look like tech from any system he'd smuggled through. This was layered, ancient, and precise. She stirred. Eyes opened, green, luminescent. Her face contorted in pain, but she didn't cry out. Her skin had a faint opalescent sheen, almost like she shimmered in the moonlight. Then he saw the ears, long, tapering, twitching like they were scanning for sound. "Well," he said, "you're definitely not from around here." She blinked, tried to speak. Failed. Jace pulled a tool from his belt and hesitated. "If this thing fries me, I want it on record that I did the noble thing." "I'm recording," Sal said cheerfully. "This is going to be hilarious." With a grunt, Jace jammed the disruptor into the energy node and twisted. A sharp hum burst into the air as sparks leapt. The trap sputtered and then collapsed, its metallic limbs retreating into the ground like angry vines. She collapsed into his arms, light and unexpectedly warm. He carried her back aboard, muttering, "Why is it never a simple salvage run? Why not a crate of illegal spice or a busted war droid with trust issues?" Inside, he laid her on the medbench. She stirred again, eyes fluttering open. Her voice was a whisper, melodic and rough. "You freed me. Don't thank me yet. You might still owe me a new pair of boots." She tried to sit up, failed again. "I owe you more than boots. Let's start with your name." "Sareth." "Cool. I'm Jace. This charming piece of metal is Sal. He thinks he's funny." "I'm hilarious," Sal added. Sareth's gaze narrowed. "You saved me. I will not leave your side until your life debt is repaid." Jace blinked. "I'm sorry, did you say life debt? Is that like a 'you owe me dinner' thing, or more of a 'you follow me forever and kill people in my name' thing?" "I protect you, I serve you, until the scales are balanced." "Oh no, no scales. I don't do scales. I do short contracts and long naps. Your humor is defensive. And your ears are doing a little dance." She ignored him, or perhaps chose not to understand sarcasm. He sighed and leaned back in the pilot's chair. Sal, set course for the nearest med station. "No can do. There's a Class 3 bounty scan just lit up near the relay. Someone's looking for your new girlfriend." Not my, he paused. Wait, bounty. Multiple hits. No names, just biometric tags. Hers matches. Also, she's listed as extinct. Sareth opened one eye. That's an exaggeration. You extinct? Jace asked. Mostly. He scratched his head. Sal. Remind me again why I get out of bed. Because the alternative is letting the ship fly itself, which we both know ends in docking violations and fire. Sareth sat up slowly, despite the pain, and looked around. This place smells like rust and burnt coffee. Welcome to the Wayfarer, spa services not included. I accept my fate. He shook his head. Look, Sareth, I didn't save you so you could become my bodyguard. I saved you because… Well, I don't know, reflex maybe. That doesn't mean you have to stick around. I disagree. She disagrees, Sal confirmed. I recommend letting her stay. Statistically, she's more competent than you. Jace threw his hands up. Fine, but if we're doing this, you pull your weight. No mysterious rituals or silent brooding in corners. I do not brood, Sareth said. You totally brood, Sal added. And just like that, Jace found himself sharing a ship with a long-eared fugitive who didn't understand sarcasm but had declared herself his eternal shadow. The alarms hadn't even quieted before he realized. This was going to be one hell of a ride. Jace woke to the sound of humming, not engine humming, not the comforting, groaning hum of his coffee synthesizer. This was someone humming a tune humming. He blinked, rolled off the cot, and immediately smacked his head on the low ceiling of the Wayfarer's crew quarters. Again. Sal, remind me why I didn't install padded walls. Because you spent the budget on an espresso module you still haven't figured out. Jace grunted and staggered into the main cabin. Sareth was standing there, arms crossed, ears twitching, and reorganizing his storage crates. What are you doing? He asked, rubbing the sleep from his temple. You lack order, she said. Your protein rations were stacked beside coolant tubes. That's a fire hazard. Technically edible if I'm desperate, he muttered. She turned, elegant in a way that looked deeply out of place in his junk heap of a ship. We are being hunted. Preparation is necessary. Jace froze. Wait, what do you mean hunted? Sal chimed in. She means the bounty board lit up like a supernova during karaoke night. 5 ships pinged your location an hour ago. I cloaked us. You're welcome. You cloaked us, with what duct tape and hope? I reverse-engineered a mining drone stealth signature. Very creative, if I may say so. Sareth's tone was calm. They will come again, we should move. No argument there, Jace muttered. Plot us a course, Sal. Somewhere unlisted, preferably with no sentient life and great snacks. Unlisted options include asteroid dive bars, decommissioned battle stations, and the planet Grand Terra, where everything tastes like rubber but nothing asks questions. Sareth nodded. Grand Terra acceptable. Jace sighed. That was a joke. I wasn't joking. The Wayfarer jolted as the engines came online. Jace strapped himself into the pilot seat, glancing sideways at Sareth, who remained standing, balanced, calm, alert. Her ears twitched every time the hull creaked. You ever flown a ship? He asked. I've flown war gliders over storm planets and navigated darkspace ruptures blindfolded. So no. Her brow arched. Just checking, he said, punching the throttle. The jump to slipstream wasn't smooth. It never was with his ship. The stars outside the viewport stretched into lines, then twisted into the swirling vortex of compressed reality. The ship groaned in protest but held. Estimated travel time? Jace asked. 4 hours, Sal replied. Plenty of time for existential dread, poor food choices, and awkward bonding. Great. Jace stood and made his way to the galley. Sareth followed without a word. You really going to shadow me everywhere? He asked, digging into a ration pack with all the enthusiasm of a man biting a tire. Until the debt is paid. I saved you from a trap. You're alive. That seems like we're even. It is not that simple. Never is. He took a bite, chewed, regretted, tastes like vacuum-sealed disappointment. Sareth picked up a bar of nutritional paste, sniffed it, and grimaced. This is considered food. Only by people who have given up hope. She paused, then took a bite. Acceptable. You're a monster. Sal interrupted with a ping. Incoming transmission ping. Encrypted, high-level signature, bounty network. They found us again. Didn't you cloak us? I did, but apparently someone upgraded their tracking protocols. They have a lock on Sareth's biometric data. They're using quantum lace pulse echoes. Jace blinked. Okay, first, what in the name of space squid yoga is a quantum lace pulse echo? Think sonar but rude. Sareth's voice was suddenly sharp. They should not have that tech. Yet they do, Sal added. I suggest evasive maneuvers or surrender, mostly the first. Jace shot back to the cockpit, slamming into his seat. Let's dance then. 3 ships emerged from the warp stream like teeth tearing through fabric. Sleek, angular designs. No insignias. Classic bounty hunter look. One hailed them. Jace patched it through. A distorted voice filled the cabin. Hand over the Vayari, and we'll leave your corpse mostly intact. He turned to Sareth. Want to say something diplomatic? She stood behind him, calm as ever. Let them try. Was hoping you'd say that, he said, flipping the weapon's toggle. Sal, give me full power to forward shields and reroute coolant from the espresso module. You never used it anyway. Outside, plasma fire erupted. The Wayfarer jolted again, but Jace spun the ship into a barrel roll, skimming the edge of a debris field. He ducked behind a broken freighter hull. Give me a ping on their weak points. They're using Tier 4 Seraphim plating. Not much we can do with your pea-shooter cannon, unless you're really into slow disappointment. Jace grinned. That's kind of my brand. Sareth moved beside him. Allow me. She placed her hands over the weapon's console, fingers dancing over controls like she'd done it 100 times. The ship's small ion cannon surged, overloaded, and fired 3 shots in rapid succession, each aimed not to destroy, but to blind sensors. They'll recover in 60 seconds, Sal said. Then let's not be here when they do, Jace said, slamming the hyperburn. The Wayfarer leapt out of the skirmish zone like a punched comet. After several minutes of silence, Jace slumped in his chair. I need a new life, he said. You have one, Sareth replied, me. That's not comforting. I didn't intend it to be. Back in the galley, Jace collapsed into a chair. Sareth sat across from him. For the first time since they met, her shoulders dropped slightly. They shouldn't have had that tech, she said quietly. I'm guessing they got it from someone very powerful. Yes. And now that someone knows you're alive. Yes. Jace took a breath. Well, you're on my ship now, and I have a strict no assassination policy, unless it's ironic. Sal chimed in again. We've got 12 alerts, 4 flagged transmissions, and 1 weird message from a guy who claims to be your cousin and wants to sell you lunar real estate. Jace groaned. I hate Tuesdays. Sareth stood again. We keep moving. You don't tire easily, do you? No, but you do. He sighed. Fine. 1 hour of sleep, then we run again. As he headed back to his cot, Sal said, You two make a lovely couple. We're not yet. Jace didn't realize how tired he was until he woke up 6 hours later with half a ration bar stuck to his cheek and a boot in his hand. Not on his foot. In his hand. He stared at it for a moment, confused, before tossing it aside like it had personally betrayed him. Sal, he mumbled, sitting up. How long was I out? Approximately 6 hours, 22 minutes, and 1 musical interlude you slept through. I debated waking you, but your snoring was rhythmic and oddly soothing. I snore rhythmically, like a dying reactor, truly mesmerizing. Jace rubbed his face and pulled on a shirt that smelled faintly of coolant and regret. He stumbled into the cockpit, blinking at the faint blue haze outside the viewport. Where are we? Outer ring of the Bellatrix debris spiral. You left the coordinates vague, so I picked somewhere scenic and full of abandoned tech. Also, very few life forms. Just the occasional junk harvester and 1 highly suspicious space clown. Jace paused, space clown. Still tracking, he appears to be juggling plasma grenades. He turned toward the nav station and saw Sereth already there, legs crossed, eyes scanning a console filled with strange glyphs that definitely were standard galactic. "Morning," he said, stretching. "It's the third cycle since our last jump." "Right, that's what I meant." She turned toward him. "You needed rest." "You say that like it's optional. For you it often is." Jace moved to the secondary console and activated the local scans. The debris spiral glowed faintly, pieces of broken ships and failed satellites drifting lazily in the void. Sereth tilted her head. "There's something underneath the spiral's center." "Define something." "Power source, ancient, still active." Jace sighed. "Why is it never a smoothie bar or abandoned vacation dome?" Sereth looked at him. "What's a smoothie bar?" "A magical place where things taste good, and no one's trying to vaporize you." She stood graceful as ever and started prepping gear. "Oh no," Jace said. "No way, you're not pulling me into another doom dive without snacks." "We may find data, records, a trace of who's after me. That assumes we don't get shredded by spinning death metal first. Then we move carefully." "Carefully is not how this ship was built." Sal interrupted. "Would now be a bad time to mention we're being watched." Jace froze. "Define watched." "Long-range optics pinged. Single drone heavily camouflaged hiding in the debris field. Not moving, probably transmitting." Sereth was already reaching for her staff, an alloy rod she'd reforged from pieces of the trap he'd saved her from. She moved toward the airlock. Jace followed, groaning. "I really miss the days when my biggest problem was spoiled cargo and angry cheese smugglers." They boarded the shuttle, a clunky little pod nicknamed the Dinghy, because calling it a landing craft felt dishonest. Jace took the controls while Sereth sat beside him, checking a scanner wired together with 3 different species tech. "This drone," she said, "it's Vayari design. You said your people were mostly wiped out." "They were." "So someone's salvaging your tech. Or they never stopped using it." The pod dropped into the spiral, weaving between spinning panels and broken hulls. The power source pulsed below, massive, buried beneath a collapsed freighter hull shaped like— "I'm sorry, did you say breathes?" Sereth pointed at the readings. "Organic components, integrated into the engine core." Jace blinked. "Great, ancient living machine, totally not horrifying." They docked against a cracked maintenance port. The door hissed open, and the smell of age and ozone hit them. Inside, the corridors pulsed with faint, sluggish light. Sereth moved like she knew the layout even if she didn't. Her instincts were sharp. Jace followed, blaster drawn, muttering, "If something jumps out and screams, I'm leaving you behind." "You would not." "I absolutely would. You're very bad at lying." They reached the core chamber, round, massive, with a central cylinder wrapped in thick vines of glowing circuitry. Floating nearby was the drone. It rotated slowly, its single red lens blinking. Jace raised his weapon. Sereth held out her hand. "Wait." The drone spoke. Its voice was tinny, distorted, and female. "Designation, Sereth Tal, status, missing, priority, reclaim." Jace stepped back. "That thing knows your name." "It's from before." "Before what?" "Before the fall." The drone drifted closer. "Directive, restore sequence. Upload directive code, await reintegration." Sereth's voice dropped. "No." The drone paused. "No reintegration," she said. "No return." "Directive override not recognized. Reinitializing." Jace fired. The shot glanced off a kinetic barrier, ricocheted into the wall. The drone's eye flared. Sereth leapt. In one smooth motion, she brought her staff down onto the drone, cracking its shell and sending sparks flying. It sputtered, hissed, and fell limp. Jace exhaled. So much for diplomacy. Sereth turned to the console at the base of the core and placed her hand on it. Glyphs lit up. "This was a listening post," she said. "A relay for the Vayari network. Someone's using it to find me. Can you shut it down?" "I can do more." She moved her hand in a pattern and the glow shifted. The drone's eye flickered, then went dark, a hum built beneath their feet. "You might want to hurry," Jace said. "Done." They ran, the structure groaning behind them as systems failed one by one. They launched from the pod just as the freighter finally collapsed in on itself, folding like a dead creature, exhaling its last breath. Back aboard the Wayfarer, Jace collapsed into the pilot's chair, heart still racing. "So, what did we learn?" "They are still looking," Sareth said, "and they have your old toys." "Yes." "Which they're using to track you across systems." "Yes." "Anything good?" Sareth thought for a moment. "I also found a recipe for something called plasma pudding." Jace raised an eyebrow. "You downloaded dessert." "It was next to the targeting codes." "Well," he said, leaning back, "at least we're not being chased by a hungry AI chef." "Yet," Sal said. "I've just found a transmission from a culinary warbot looking for lost pudding recipes." Jace groaned. "That's it. I'm taking a nap and pretending none of this is real." Sareth nodded. "I'll guard your dreams." "Creepy, but thanks." Jace sat on the edge of the engine compartment, elbow-deep in wiring, cursing the universe in alphabetical order. Somewhere between absolutely idiotic neutrino coils and bloody backwards sublight conduits, he paused to breathe. "Hey, Sal," he said, wiping his brow. "Tell me again, why the fusion stabilizer's humming like a sleep-deprived hummingbird on caffeine?" "Because you replaced a regulation-grade coupler with a part you found in a vending machine on Vorthan 12. It was labeled multi-purpose. So is duct tape. Doesn't mean it belongs inside a quantum engine." A soft clank made Jace look up. Sareth stood by the hatch, holding a strange-looking device the size of a small melon. "I found this in your storage bay," she said. "That's a potato launcher." She blinked. "A what?" "Ancient earth weapon. Fires root vegetables at high velocity. Completely ineffective but highly satisfying." She turned the device in her hands. "Why do you own this?" Jace went back to the wires. "Because sometimes you just need to launch a spud at someone's head, Sareth." Sal interjected. "Incoming encrypted message. Priority flag, Shadow Guild frequency." Jace groaned. "Of course it's the Shadow Guild. Can't be a simple bounty, has to be shadowy." He stood, brushed off a scorch mark from his sleeve, and shuffled into the cockpit. Sareth followed without a word. The message began as static, then a voice, faint, male, bored. "Jace Marrow, pilot of the Wayfarer, transport code 919 Vex. You have interfered with property belonging to the Guild. Deliver the Vayari to the coordinates attached, or expect permanent disassembly." Jace raised an eyebrow. "Disassembly, that's a new one." "Very industrial," Sal added. "Almost poetic if you like welding metaphors." Sareth's expression was still. "They're escalating." "You think?" "I have a plan." "I hate those words." "We must retrieve the Echo Core." Jace frowned. "The what now?" "It's an encrypted archive. Vayari records hidden after the collapse. Only accessible with a live genetic key." "You mean you?" "Yes." Jace paced. "And let me guess, it's stored somewhere awful. A decommissioned listening satellite in the Seraph Belt." "Of course it is. Because nothing screams safety like abandoned military hardware orbiting a radiation storm." She handed him a data chip. "Here, navigation coordinates." He looked at the display. "That satellite S inside a magnetic cyclone." "Yes." "Surrounded by hull-shredding debris." "Yes." "And patrolled by illegal scrap hunters who shoot first and ask for your ship registration while you're on fire." "Yes." He turned to her. "You're enjoying this." "Only slightly." The Wayfarer slid into hyperspace with a groan, the engines rattling like a pair of overworked coffee grinders. As they neared the Seraph Belt, the space around them darkened. Fields of energy shimmered like underwater shadows, and the radiation fields made the sensors twitch. Sal pinged. "Detecting 10, maybe 11 ships in the zone. None broadcasting ID. Guessing freelance scavengers." Jace tapped the controls. "Plot me the fastest way in and the most ridiculous way out." defining ridiculous as what? Flaming barrel roll or fake distress beacon while screaming in 6 languages. Surprise me. They approached the satellite, cylindrical, rusted, pulsing faintly with dormant energy. As they docked, Jace readied his blaster and sighed. I really need to invest in better hobbies. Inside, the halls were narrow, filled with dormant drone husks. One flickered as they passed. Charming place, Jace muttered. Smells like ozone and disappointment. Vayari tech rarely fails, Sereth said, scanning a panel. But this one was sabotaged. Oh good, sabotage adds flavor. They reached the core chamber. A large console pulsed gently. Sereth stepped forward, placed her hand on it and closed her eyes. Glyphs danced across the surface. A holographic map blinked to life, showing dozens of red flags across known space. Jace whistled. What is this? Every system the Vayari once touched, every betrayal logged, every ally turned enemy, all encoded and sealed. He pointed at the largest flag, that one still blinking. It's current, she said, live activity. You're telling me there's still a Vayari enclave out there? Yes, and they're not hiding, they're planning. The lights flickered, Sal's voice echoed through their comms. I'm picking up multiple inbound signatures. Looks like the scavenger party wants in. How long do we have? About 2 minutes if they're polite, less if they brought caffeine. Sereth pulled the chip from the console. We run. Back on the Wayfarer, Jace fired the engines and twisted into the cyclone. Energy whipped around the ship like angry streamers. The scavenger ships followed, firing as they closed the distance. Sal released the trash chute, ejecting spare parts and questionable leftovers. The rear hatch opened, hurling out metal crates, one confused cleaning droid, and the remains of Jace's failed attempt at a model Star Destroyer. One scavenger clipped the debris and spun off into the storm. Did that just work? Jace asked. I believe you invented debris combat, Sal replied. The Wayfarer pulled out of the storm, engines coughing but intact. Later in the quiet of the mess bay, Sereth sat across from him, the chip in her hand. This data changes everything, she said. It's proof. Proof that someone's cleaning house, Jace muttered, and that you're on the top of their list. She nodded. The guild fears what I know. He leaned back. Then we use it, we show it. We turn the galaxy's paranoia into spotlight. You would help me. I already did, he said. Besides, you owe me like 8 life debts by now. She looked at him, and for the first time her mouth curled at the edges. Perhaps I do. Sal chimed in. Shall I log this under bonding moment 7? Make it 8, Jace said, grabbing a ration bar. And next time, I want my rescue missions to involve fewer radiation storms and more chairs. Jace stood in front of the communications array with a bowl of cereal, and absolutely no faith that this plan would work. The console blinked steadily, waiting for him to hit transmit. He stared at it like it owed him money. I'm still not convinced this isn't a spectacularly bad idea, he said, spoon in mouth. Sal replied, if I had a credit for every time you said that before something exploded, I'd finally afford a better ship to inhabit. Sereth entered quietly, dressed in the armor of her people, the chip clutched in one hand. The transmission must go out. The truth has waited long enough. Yeah, I get that, Jace muttered. But you realize we're about to shine a beacon onto every nasty in the galaxy who's got a grudge against the Vayari. And also me by association. You are no longer just associated. He blinked. Was that your way of saying we're friends? Unclear. He sighed, set the cereal down, and hovered his finger over the panel. Last chance to back out and live anonymously on a swamp moon. I hear they make decent noodles. No, didn't think so. He pressed transmit. The console lit up. The archive began broadcasting, encrypted packages of data, visuals, internal Vayari reports, video footage from the final hours before their cities fell. The betrayal. The coordinated wipeout. The buyer lists, names of politicians, mercenaries, governments who profited from the purge. The signal bounced across satellite networks, media relays and private comms. SAL reported 37 intercept attempts in the first minute. Too slow. It's already replicated to 300 data banks. Feels good to break the galaxy a little, Jace said. Someone has to, Sareth replied. An hour later, the first responses came in. A diplomatic channel from the Council of Iran requested a debrief. Civilian networks flared with debate. 2 bounty boards posted cancellations and declared temporary shutdowns. Someone even issued a public apology on behalf of the Interplanetary Historical Adjustment Committee, which Jace was almost certain was just a glorified propaganda team with nicer chairs. "You did it," he said. "We did it." He looked over at her. "So, the debt you still feel bound?" "I do." "Right, so what now?" Sarah thought for a long moment. "Now I choose to stay." He blinked. "Wait, that's it. No ritual unbinding ceremony with fire and dramatic music. I can provide fire if you insist." "Pass." The ship's already held together with prayers and adhesive patches. The cockpit lights flickered. SAL. Spoke incoming transmission. Unknown origin. No signature, just coordinates and a message. She was not the only one who survived. Jace and Sareth exchanged glances. "Another Vayari?" he asked. "Possibly, or a trap." 50-50 chance we get answers or get atomized. I've faced worse odds. Yeah, me too, usually on poker night. He pulled up the nav screen. Coordinates drop into the Veil Drift. That's dead space. Not entirely, Sareth said. It's where our temples once stood. Okay, so field trip. She nodded. They jumped 2 hours later, cutting through the fold into Veil Drift, where space bent just enough to make the stars look like they were leaning in to listen. The signal led them to a hollow asteroid shaped like a spiral shell, emitting a soft resonance. Docking was smooth, too smooth. Jace adjusted his belt. Okay, remember, if this turns out to be a cult, I am not shaving my head. Inside they found a chamber of lights and echoes. Figures stepped forward, tall, slender, long-eared like Sareth, their armor marked with an older crest. A woman approached, eyes steady. "Sareth Tau," she said, "we saw your message. You've reopened what many tried to bury." "You survived," Sareth said. "We hid in shame. You don't have to anymore." Jay stood back, arms crossed. "So this is the part where the hidden survivors rise, take back their history and rebuild, right?" The woman looked at him. "You are the human. I prefer exceptionally lucky passenger. You brought her to this point. I mostly provided sarcasm and snacks." They stayed for 2 days, exchanging knowledge, forging links. Sareth shared the archive. Jace installed SAL into their older systems, where he promptly annoyed every elder with jokes about quantum latency. When they left, Sareth watched the asteroid fade into the void. Jace leaned against the console. "You good?" "Yes. Not regretting not throwing me out an airlock months ago." "No, you proved sufficient." High praise from a nearly extinct alien race. She turned to him. "Where now?" He thought. "I've got no plans, but the galaxy's big, lots of places we haven't crashed